When the CEO raised his champagne flute and declared we were trimming the fat after the $355 million merger, I thought of only one thing: he'd just lit the fuse to his own company's destruction without knowing it. They called me excess weight, but I held the golden signature that allowed them to exist in international markets. And when they pushed me out the door with a cardboard box in my arms, I didn't cry, didn't beg, I just smiled, knowing their coming fall would have no safety net. My name is Lauren Price, and I should have seen the guillotine coming the moment Alex Morton walked through those mahogany doors. The ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton sparkled like a jewelry store window. All crystal chandeliers and fake smiles. 300 of us gathered there that Thursday evening, dressed in our corporate finest, pretending to celebrate what our CEO Richard Blackstone called the deal of the decade. $355 million. That's what Megacorp paid for our boutique compliance firm. And everyone acted like we'd all won the lottery. I nursed my gin and tonic near the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city lights blur through the glass. 15 years I'd given to this company. 15 years of 12-hour days. Missed birthdays, postponed vacations. My fingernails had permanent indentations from gripping my laptop during red-eye flights to Singapore, London, Dubai. As head of international compliance, I'd built our global framework from scratch, turning us from a domestic nobody into a player that could dance with the big boys. "Ladies and gentlemen," Blackstone's voice boomed through the microphone, his face flushed with either triumph or his fourth scotch, probably both. "Tonight, we don't just celebrate a merger. We celebrate evolution." The crowd applauded like trained seals. I took another sip. "And leading that evolution," he continued, gesturing toward the entrance, "is our new Vice President of Operational Efficiency, Alex Morton." Morton strutted in like he owned the place, which, technically, his new employer did. 30-something, Harvard MBA practically tattooed on his forehead, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. His smile reminded me of a shark's all teeth. No warmth. The consulting types always smiled like that, right before they told you how your entire department was redundant. "Thank you, Richard." Morton grabbed the mic with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "At Megacorp, we believe in lean operations, agile thinking, and most importantly," he paused for effect, scanning the room like a predator counting sheep, "trimming the fat to reveal the muscle underneath." Trimming the fat. There it was, the phrase that would haunt every water cooler conversation for the next week. Around me, I could feel the collective sphincter tightening of middle management. Karen from accounting almost choked on her canapé. David from IT suddenly found his shoes very interesting. But tonight, Morton raised his glass. "Tonight we celebrate to the future." To the future, the room echoed, though half of us were probably wondering if we'd be part of it. I watched Morton work the room afterward, shaking hands and slapping backs like a politician on campaign. When he reached my corner, his eyes did that quick up-and-down assessment that consultants perfect in their first week of training. "Lauren Price," I extended my hand before he could ask. "International compliance." Compliance." His handshake was deliberately firm, the kind men use when they want to establish dominance. "Tell me, Lauren, how many people in your department?" 12 globally. 12? He repeated it like he was tasting wine and finding it sour. "For compliance, interesting. We handle operations in 37 countries," I said, keeping my voice steady, "each with unique regulatory frameworks." Of course. He was already looking past me, searching for his next target. "We'll be conducting comprehensive reviews of all departments over the coming weeks. Efficiency assessments. I'm sure you understand." I understood perfectly. I'd seen this movie before, New Management. Efficiency expert, downsizing dressed up as optimization. The only difference was this time, I had a starring role. As Morton moved on to terrorize someone from marketing, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my emails. Between the congratulations and merger announcements, there was one from HR. "All department heads mandatory meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. sharp, organizational restructuring discussion." The gin suddenly tasted bitter. Around me, the party continued, champagne bubbles rising like tiny hopes about to burst, laughter echoing off marble walls that had heard these same promises before. Blackstone was now thoroughly drunk. telling anyone who'd listen about his new yacht. Morton had cornered the CFO, probably already calculating how many millions he could save by outsourcing half our jobs to Bangladesh. I set down my empty glass and headed for the exit. In the lobby, I passed the company's mission statement, etched in bronze, building trust through compliance excellence. Tomorrow, they'd probably replace it with trimming fat for shareholder value. If only they knew what kind of fat they were about to trim. The execution squad came for me at 2:30 p.m. the next day. I'd actually made it through the morning's restructuring discussion unscathed. Sat there for 2 hours while Morton projected PowerPoints about synergies and redundancies, his laser pointer dancing across org charts like a sniper's scope. When lunch came, I even allowed myself to think I might survive this massacre. Stupid. Hope is always stupid in corporate America. The Slack message popped up while I was reviewing a compliance report from our Berlin office. Please report to Conference Room C immediately, HR. Conference Room C, not the big one with windows where they held real meetings. C was the windowless box at the end of the hall, nicknamed the confession booth, because nothing good ever happened there. It's where they took you to die professionally. I closed my laptop slowly, savoring what would probably be my last few moments of access to the system I'd built. Around me, the compliance department hummed with nervous energy. Everyone had seen the HR message pop up on my screen in open offices. Privacy is just another casualty. Lauren. Sarah, my deputy, looked up with those wide doe eyes that hadn't yet been hardened by enough corporate betrayals. Everything okay? Just HR stuff, I lied, grabbing my phone. No point in causing panic. They'd find out soon enough. The walk to Conference Room C felt like those movie scenes where the condemned walks to the electric chair. Every step echoed on the polished floor. Through glass walls, I could see other departments pretending to work while secretly watching my march. News travels fast in offices. Bad news travels at light speed. Morton was already there, of course, sitting at the head of the small table like he was conducting a board meeting instead of an execution. Janet from HR sat to his right, armed with a manila folder thick enough to club someone with. Her face wore that practiced expression of corporate sympathy, the kind they must teach in HR school. Somewhere between, "I'm sorry for your loss," and "This hurts me more than it hurts you." "Lauren, please sit," Morton gestured to the chair directly across from him. The hot seat. I noticed there was already a box of tissues placed conveniently within reach. How thoughtful. "I'll cut to the chase," he began, though we all knew he wouldn't. These guys loved their speeches. As part of the merger integration, we've conducted a comprehensive analysis of all departments. We've identified significant overlap between your team's functions and Megacorp's existing compliance infrastructure. Megacorp's infrastructure doesn't cover half the territories we... Please let me finish. He held up his hand like a traffic cop. Effective immediately. We're consolidating all compliance operations under Megacorp's existing framework. Your position has been determined to be redundant. Redundant. There it was. The corporate kiss of death. Not fired. Not let go redundant. Like I was an extra kidney. Janet slid the folder across the table. This is your separation package. 2 weeks severance for every year of service. Continuation of health benefits through the end of the quarter. And of course, we'll provide positive references for your future endeavors. I opened the folder, scanning through pages of legal jargon designed to protect them. Not me. But there, buried on page 4, was something interesting, a new addition I hadn't seen in previous termination packages. A section titled, Certification and Licensing Transfer, requiring me to sign over all compliance certifications held in the company's name. We'll need you to sign these documents before you leave the building, Janet continued, her voice hitting that rehearsed cadence. Security will escort you to your desk to collect personal items. Company property laptop, phone, access card stays here. I flipped through the pages slowly, buying time while my brain processed what they'd missed. The certification transfer section was thorough, but focused on domestic licenses. The international compliance certifications, the ones I'd personally secured back in 2013 when the company was desperate to expand globally, weren't specifically mentioned. And there, at the bottom of page 7, was the signature line they needed to nullify my authorization. I signed everything else. Every page got my neat cursive except that one crucial line. Is everything in order? Morton asked, already checking his phone, mentally onto his next termination. All set, I said, closing the folder and sliding it back. Janet gathered the papers without checking. Why would she? Who refuses to sign their own termination papers? She probably had 3 more executions scheduled before 5 p.m. Your things, she prompted. I travel light, I said. Just a coffee mug and some personal files. I can grab them on my way out. Morton stood, extending his hand like we'd just concluded a successful business deal. No hard feelings. Lauren, it's just business. You understand? I shook his hand, matching his firm grip. Of course, trimming the fat, right? He had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. The security officer will meet you at your desk. That won't be necessary, I said. After 15 years, I know my way to the exit. Janet looked like she wanted to insist, but Morton waved her off. Lauren's been nothing but professional. I think we can spare her the perp walk. How magnanimous. I stood, straightened my blazer, and headed for the door. Oh, Lauren, Morton called out. We'll need your signature on the certification transfer by end of business Monday. Janet will email you if anything's missing. Of course, I said without turning around. Have a pleasant weekend. The door clicked shut behind me with a soft finality. In the hallway, I could feel eyes tracking my movement through the glass walls. Everyone wondering if they were next. They probably were. The memory hit me as I stood at my desk, packing my pathetic box of personal items. Summer of 2013. The company barely had 50 employees, and international expansion was just a fever dream Blackstone had after too many martinis with potential investors. Price, I need you in here. Now. His voice had boomed through the thin walls of our old office in the financial district, back when we couldn't afford the fancy midtown address. I'd found him hunched over his desk, surrounded by rejection letters from international regulatory bodies, Singapore, Germany, Japan, the UAE, each one basically saying the same thing: come back when you're a real company with real compliance infrastructure. We're hemorrhaging money, he'd said without preamble. These venture capitalists want to see international presence before the Series B round, but every fucking country wants certifications we don't have, and the consultants want $500,000 just to start the process. What kind of certifications? He'd shoved a stack of papers at me. International Financial Compliance Certification, Global Regulatory Framework Attestation, Cross-Border Transaction Authority. The list went on alphabet soup of bureaucratic requirements that would make most people's eyes glaze over. But I'd seen opportunity. I can get these, I'd said. Bullshit. McKenzie and Associates said it would take minimum 18 months and a team of... I have the security clearance level from my treasury days, TS/SCI with financial sector endorsements. Plus, I maintained my international law certification from Georgetown. Blackstone had looked at me like I'd just announced I could turn water into wine, which, in a way, I had. What followed were 6 months of hell. I lived on airplanes, survived on airport coffee and conference room danishes. I learned to navigate Byzantine bureaucracies in languages I didn't speak, armed only with Google Translate and sheer determination. But the thing that made it all work, was a quirk in international compliance law that most people didn't know about. See, certain certifications could only be held by individuals, not corporations. The company could operate under them, but the authorization belonged to a person, a specific person with specific qualifications, and once established, these certifications were nearly impossible to transfer quickly. The bureaucratic process alone took 12 to 18 months, assuming you had someone else with the exact same clearance levels and qualifications. By December of 2013, I held 14 critical international certifications in my name, operating on behalf of the company. The paperwork was ironclad, I'd made sure of that. Spending my own money on lawyers to review every clause. The company could use these certifications as long as I was employed and maintained them. The moment my employment ended, so did their authorization to operate under those certifications. It was supposed to be job security, my insurance policy against future layoffs. Blackstone had been too desperate to question it. The board was too excited about the international expansion to read the fine print, and every year since, when the certifications came up for renewal, I'd quietly processed them, paid the fees from the company account, and filed the paperwork that kept my name as the sole authorized representative. You okay? Lauren, Sarah's voice snapped me back to the present. She stood at the entrance to my soon-to-be former office, holding a bottle of wine she'd probably been saving for a happier occasion. "Just remembering," I said, placing a framed photo of my dog into the box. "Did you know this company couldn't operate in Singapore without me?" She laughed nervously. "What do you mean? Or Germany, or Japan, or any of the 37 countries where we have compliance clearance?" "I don't understand." I picked up the leather-bound folder from my desk, my personal copy of all the certification documents. "Remember when Morton asked how many people were in our Department 12? I said, but really, for international operations, it's just me." Sarah's face went pale as the implications sank in. "But surely they know." "They know we have the certifications. It's all in the merger documents." Robust International Compliance Framework was actually listed as a key asset, worth approximately $75 million in their valuation. "Lauren, you have to tell them." I closed the box, tucking the folder under my arm. "Tell them what they just declared me redundant. Clearly, they have it all figured out. This is going to destroy them. Maybe. Or maybe Megacorp's brilliant infrastructure really can replace 15 years of relationships and personal certifications overnight. I'm sure Alex Morton knows what he's doing." Sarah looked like she wanted to say more, but we both knew she couldn't afford to be seen as sympathetic to the terminated, not if she wanted to survive the next round of cuts. "Take care of yourself," I said, heading for the elevator. "And Sarah, you might want to update your resume, just in case." The security guard was waiting by the elevator, trying to look casual. He'd known me for 8 years. Used to sneak me extra donuts from the executive floor. "Sorry about this, Ms. Price," he muttered. "Not your fault, Marcus, just doing your job." As the elevator descended, I thought about those 14 certifications, each one tied to my personal credentials, my security clearance, my professional reputation. In approximately 3 hours, when HR processed my termination in the system, every single one would automatically flag for re-verification. And then the dominoes would start to fall. The March afternoon sun hit my face as I exited through the revolving doors for the last time. No dramatic thunderstorm, no symbolic rain, just another beautiful day in Manhattan, while my professional life ended with a whimper. I didn't look back. 15 years. And I walked away carrying one banker's box that weighed less than my laptop bag, a coffee mug with a chip on the handle, 3 framed photos, a stress ball shaped like a globe that Sarah had given me as a joke, and my leather folder of certification documents. The security guard had tried to check the box. But what was he looking for? Stolen staplers, corporate secrets printed on coffee-stained napkins. The sidewalk teemed with the usual lunch crowd returning to their offices, blissfully unaware they'd just passed someone committing corporate suicide by omission. My phone, my personal one, since they'd confiscated the company iPhone like I might sell their contacts to competitors, buzzed with texts from colleagues who'd heard the news. I deleted them without reading. Sympathy was just another form of small talk I didn't need. I hailed a cab, gave the driver my address, and settled into the cracked vinyl seat. Through the window, I watched my former office building shrink into the skyline, somewhere up on the 32nd floor. Morton was probably already converting my office into a wellness room or some other bullshit amenity to show how progressive Megacorp was. My phone rang. Janet from HR. "Lauren, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I was reviewing your paperwork." "Is there a problem?" I kept my voice neutral, bored even. "The certification transfer section on page 7. It seems you missed the signature line." "Did I? How careless of me." "Could you come back to sign it? Or I could email it to you." "Janet, I've just been declared redundant and escorted from the building. I'm sure whatever certification issues you have can be handled by Megacorp's robust existing infrastructure. After all, that's why my position was eliminated, right?" A pause. "It's just a formality, Lauren. Standard procedure." "Then it can wait until Monday. Email it to my personal address. I'll review it with my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" "Well, I need to make sure I'm not signing away any personal liability. These certifications were obtained using my security clearances. I want to ensure I'm properly indemnified." I'll have to check with legal." "You do that. Have a nice weekend, Janet." I hung up before she could respond. The cab driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. probably wondering if I was one of those crazy executives who snap and make the evening news. I gave him a smile that suggested I might be. My apartment in Brooklyn looked exactly as I'd left it that morning before I knew my world would implode by 3 p.m. Coffee cup still in the sink. Half-read compliance journal on the kitchen table. My cat Murray glaring at me from his perch like I'd personally offended him by coming home early. Got fired? Murray? I told him. Redundant. Actually, apparently, we're excess fat. He yawned, unimpressed by human corporate drama. I set the box on my dining table and pulled out the leather folder. 14 certificates, each one embossed with official seals, watermarks, and most importantly, my name, Lauren E. Price, authorized representative. Not the company, me. The Singapore Financial Authority certification alone had taken 3 months to secure. The German BaFin compliance authorization required a personal interview in Frankfurt where they grilled me for 6 hours in a language I barely spoke. The Japanese FSA certification that had involved a guarantor, a ritual exchange of business cards that followed protocol older than my grandmother, and a level of patience I didn't know I possessed. My laptop, my personal one, sat on the coffee table. I opened it, logged into my personal email. Nothing from the company yet. But there were 3 emails from former colleagues at other firms. Word travels fast in our incestuous little industry. Heard about the changes at your shop. Coffee next week. Translation. Are you desperate enough to take a lower position at our company? I archived them without responding and pulled up a different screen, the International Compliance Registry, where all certifications were tracked. My credentials still showed as active, still linked to the company's operating licenses. But there, in small print at the bottom of each certificate, was the termination clause I'd insisted on all those years ago. Authorization valid only during active employment of designated representative. I checked my watch, 2 hours and 43 minutes. HR system would process my termination. The automatic notification would hit the registry, and every single certification would flip from active to suspended. No one would notice at first. These systems don't send alerts for suspensions that would be too easy. They just quietly stop working. Access denied. Authorization invalid. Please contact your compliance officer. Except I was the compliance officer, was being the operative word. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Legal is asking about some certifications. Should I be worried? I texted back, not your problem anymore. 3 dots appeared as she typed, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, Lauren, what did you do? I didn't respond. She'd figure it out soon enough. They all would. Murray jumped onto the table, knocking over the stress ball globe. It rolled off the edge and bounced on the hardwood floor with a hollow sound that seemed appropriate for the moment. The world, literally dropping at my feet. I picked it up, squeezing it once before tossing it in the trash. I wouldn't need it anymore. My stress was about to become someone else's problem. Specifically, Alex Morton's. The first domino fell at 6:17 p.m. in Singapore. I knew because Raj Patel, my former counterpart at the Singapore office, texted me directly. Lauren, our compliance portal just locked us out. System says authorization invalid. Is this some kind of maintenance? I was halfway through a glass of wine and a rerun of some mindless reality show. I wouldn't know. Raj, I was let go today. Try calling it. What, they fired you? Are you fucking kidding me? Redundant. Actually, apparently, Megacorp has it covered. Lauren, we have 17 transactions pending approval. Without the portal, we can't. His typing stopped mid-sentence. He'd figured it out. I turned off my phone and poured another glass. Let them figure it out. I'd spent 15 years being the safety net. The one who answered calls at 3 a.m. when someone needed emergency compliance clearance. Not anymore. By 11 p.m., I was curious enough to turn my phone back on. 47 missed calls. 63 texts. The last one from Blackstone himself. Call me immediately. All caps. How dramatic. I didn't call. Saturday morning arrived with more texts, increasingly frantic. The Singapore office had missed the deadline for a major transaction approval. The German office couldn't access regulatory filings due Monday. Tokyo was completely locked out of the compliance system they needed for their quarterly audit. My favorite was from Morton Ms. Price. There seems to be some confusion about the certification transfers. Please contact me at your earliest convenience to resolve this matter. Confusion, that's what he was calling it. By Saturday afternoon, the calls shifted from confused to desperate. Janet from HR left 3 voicemails, each more strained than the last. Lauren, we really need those signatures. There's been some complications with the international offices. Then came the lawyers, Parker, Brennan and Associates, the company's legal counsel. Very official, very threatening voicemail about contractual obligations and potential litigation. I called them back, not because I was scared, but because I wanted them to understand exactly how fucked their client was. Ms. Price, thank you for returning our call. The lawyer, Harrison something or other, began. We need to discuss the certification situation immediately. What situation would that be? Don't play games. You're holding the company's international operations hostage. Hostage implies I'm making demands. I'm not. I'm sitting in my apartment, unemployed, watching Netflix. You have an obligation to transfer those certifications. Do I? Can you point to the specific clause in my employment contract that requires me to maintain certifications after termination? Silence. The beautiful sound of a lawyer realizing they'd fucked up. The company paid for those certifications, he tried. The company paid the fees, yes, but the certifications are tied to my personal security clearances, my professional qualifications, my individual liability insurance. I took the tests. I sat through the interviews. I maintained the continuing education requirements on my own time. We could sue you. For what? Refusing to work for free after being terminated? Good luck with that. Meanwhile, every day those certifications remain suspended. Your client loses approximately, what was the number Morton mentioned, right? 3.5 million in international revenue. How long do you think the board will wait before they start asking who signed off on firing the person holding all the keys? Another silence. What do you want? Nothing. I wanted to keep doing my job. That option was taken off the table yesterday at 2:30 p.m. Be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm following the exact letter of the law. The certifications were valid during my employment. My employment ended. The certification suspended. It's all very straightforward. You know this will destroy your reputation in the industry. I laughed. Actually laughed. Harrison, let me explain something about reputation. Come Monday, every major compliance officer in the industry is going to hear about how Megacorp fired the person holding their international certifications without securing transfers first. They're not going to think I'm the problem. They're going to wonder what kind of amateur hour operation doesn't do basic due diligence before a termination. This isn't over. No, I imagine it's just beginning. Have a lovely weekend, Harrison. I hung up and went back to my wine. Murray had claimed my lap, purring with the satisfaction of a cat who doesn't understand human stupidity but appreciates the extra attention it brings. My phone buzzed again, this time, a text from Sarah. Emergency all-hands meeting called for Monday 7 a.m. Morton looks like he's about to have a stroke. What did you do? I didn't respond, but I did smile. Then came the email I'd been waiting for. Not from legal or HR, but from the International Compliance Registry. Automated, impersonal, and devastating. Dear Ms. Price, we acknowledge receipt of employment termination notice from your designated organization, as per Section 47.3 of the certification requirements. All associated authorizations have been suspended pending re-verification. Any attempt to operate under suspended certifications may result in criminal penalties. Please note, new certification applications from your previous organization will enter the standard 18-month review process. 18 months? Minimum. I forwarded the email to Harrison, Morton, Blackstone, and Janet. No message, just the facts. Then I turned off my phone, opened a new bottle of wine, and started searching for beach resorts in Mexico. I had 15 years of severance to burn through, and suddenly, all the time in the world. Monday morning, 7:12 a.m. I was enjoying coffee and a croissant at my favorite Brooklyn cafe when Sarah called. I almost didn't answer, but morbid curiosity won. You need to hear this, she whispered, and I could hear shuffling as she presumably hid in a bathroom stall. I'm going to put you on speaker, but stay quiet. Through her phone, I heard the unmistakable sounds of corporate panic, voices overlapping, chairs scraping, someone repeatedly asking, "How did we not know this?" Then Morton's voice cut through, sharp and desperate. "Everyone, quiet." The room fell silent. CTO Williams explained the situation, slowly, so even the idiots who missed this can understand. Williams' voice was strained, like a man reading his own death warrant. Every international